The Indian Constitution under Article 14 provides for equality before law or the equal protection of laws to all persons. This is a statement of formal equality and gives meaning to what preamble seeks to ensure in terms of equality of status and of opportunity. This also means that the laws of land apply equally and there should not be discrimination on the grounds of birth, caste, color, gender. In fact, Article 15 of the Constitution substantiates Article 14 further by prohibiting any such discrimination. Equality before law and equal protection of law have been further strengthened in the Indian Constitution under Article 21. It ensures that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. This means a reasonable and fair just procedure should be followed for depriving a person of his personal and liberty and life. It admits no arbitrariness, discriminatory procedure or unequal treatment for different individuals. Equality before law is Article 14, prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, Article 15, equality of opportunity in matters of public employment, Article 16, abolition of untouchability, Article 17, abolition of titles, Article 18. Some of the policies are needed to overcome the hindrances of equality by the government. For example, India follows the policy of reservation and the other principle of reservation, and other countries follow affirmative action. The fundamental rights are assured as the state cannot interfere in the matters of personal life. The fundamental rights include right to equality, Article 14 to 18, or right to freedom, Article 92 to 22, right against exploitation, Article 23 to 24, right to freedom of religion, Article 25 to 28, cultural and educational rights, Article 29 to 30, right to constitutional remedies, Article 32 to 35. Decentralization of power is required for safeguard of liberty. Power should be divided into central, provincial and local governments. Such decentralization leads to efficient administration. Independent safeguard of liberty and depends upon the independence of judiciary. It should be free and from the control of the executive. The independent judiciary, the Constitution of India makes as provisions for independence of judiciary because only independent judiciary can safeguard the rights and liberties of the people, can protect the supremacy of the Constitution. An impartial method has been adopted for the appointment of judges. High qualifications have been fixed for the judges. The judges of the Supreme Court stay in office till 65 years of age and High Court still 62 years of age. Economic security is a condition to liberty. Where there are rich and poor, educated and uneducated, we always find the relation to master and servant. Lasky. Rule of law is established in England, USA and India. Rule of law means that there should not be any distinction of caste and creed, color and race in the eyes of law. All are equal and all are liable to be punished if they commit crime. Political education, permanent safeguard of liberty is possible. Educated are acutely aware of their rights and duties. Eternal vigilance of prices of liberty, and in its absence, one can act according to his will whenever the government crosses the barrier of its authority, and interference in the personal life of the people may rise in revolt against the government. Fundamental rights of India are drawn from the USA. Law is the prescription of rules and regulations sanctioned by the sovereignty for the state. Law, as Bodin said, is the command of the sovereign. Similarly, Aristotle has rightly pointed out that if there is no law, even man will behave like beast. There is always intense debate why the law is lenient in some part of the world and so powerful in another part of the world. The term law was derived from an old Teutonic root lag, which means something which lies fixed or evenly. Without law, life may witness utter chaos and confusion. Law is the command of the sovereign. Law is the John Austin. Law is the collection of rules which state recognizes and applies in the administration of justice. Salmond. The picture in the bull is taming sports of culture, Tamil culture popular known as Jallikattu Alanganallur in Madurai district. Alanganallur is synonymous with the bull taming sport usually conducted in the month of January along with Pongal festival in Tamil Nadu. Every society in our country is having its own right to life, liberty and continuing their culture and tradition, but in this case of Jallikattu there is a tussle between cultural rights and animal rights. As per the Constitution of India, Article 29(1) is a fundamental right guaranteed under Article 43, Part 3, which protects the educational and cultural rights. The 2014 judgment of the Supreme Court assesses that animals as sentient beings having the fundamental right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution. These contradictions have made several interpretations in formalizing this sport. The religion practiced by primitive countries played a decisive role in evolving the laws of the state later. Religion was a basis for law for most of the nation. The origin of Hindu law can be traced in the Code of Manu. The origin of Muhammadan law can be traced in Shariat law. Divine law is a law revealed through man from God. God is the ultimate source of divine law. For Christians, 10 Commandments were the first law given by the Lord Almighty to his people and was considered as the basis of law. The function of the judiciary is to interpret and declare the law. The main function of the judiciary creates laws. The laws later gets recognized by the state. Judicial decisions thus become another source of law. Sometimes the verdict of High Court and Supreme Court are treated as laws. When laws are ambiguous and do not fit in, the principles of equity are applied and cases are decided according to common sense and fairness. In English law, equity means the body of rules originally enforced only by the Court of Chancery. Another source of law are scientific commentaries. When the commentary appears, it is understood only as an argument. Later on, its authority is recognized as more authoritative than the judicial decision. Legislature. Most of the laws in the modern times are framed by legislature and it is one of the most important source of law. Indian constitution is a classical example where the best provisions of other constitutions are borrowed and made it available for the best of our nation. Sources of the Indian constitution: Government of India Act 1935, UK Constitution and US Constitution. Ethics reveals its citizens to the code of conduct. Similarly, the laws are framed by state also aim to achieve the same goal. The best state is that which is nearest in virtue to the individual. If any part of the body politic suffers, the whole body suffers. A bad state will have bad citizens and a good state will have good citizens. A law framed with the purpose of eliminating evils such as drinking of wine, gambling, theft, dacoity and murder are moral laws. The laws which are based on morality remain permanent. The power of democracy lies in participation of fields in the people in the democratic exercise of electing their representatives. People are not directly involved in the framing of laws, yet they could elect their representatives to the legislature. The elected body are just expected to represent the will of the public. The modern state appeals to morality, to religion, and to natural law as the ideological foundation of its existence. At the same time, it is prepared to infringe any or all of these in the interest of self-preservation. In democracy, laws are framed only based on the support of public opinion. People carry out peaceful demonstrations to express their opinion or resentment. Common welfare of the people and social progress are the primary considerations of the public opinion. Law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice, and when they fail in this purpose, they become dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress. Martin Luther King, Jr. Citizenship in political theory, citizenship is refers to only legal status, which means not only to legal status, which means the ruled are full and equal participants in the political process. Democracy and citizenship go hand in hand. Citizenship focus on attributes of individuals. Citizens have certain rights that differ from one country to another. Natural citizens are by virtue of our birth, but naturally citizens are the ones who acquire citizenship. Aristotle defined citizenship with reference to the birthplace, family, lineage, and culture. Citizenship was an important theme in the ancient Greek and Roman republics, but they disappeared from the feudal system. This was later revived as a desirable aspect of humanism during the Renaissance. Citizenship was considered only as a participation of duties during the ancient Athens. According to Marshall, a liberal social democrats link citizenship to social class in the context of capitalism. Citizenship has three essential divisions: civil, political, and social. Every individual requires a right for freedom, and that is what is in a civil component. As a citizen, we have the right to participate in political decision making processes. Aristotle defines citizenship as he who has power to take part in the deliberative or judicial administration of any state. The Maintenance and Welfare of Servants and Senior Citizens was passed in 2007 to provide maintenance or support to elderly parents and senior citizens. The Act established the Maintenance Tribunal to provide speedy and effective relief to elderly person. Maintenance, according to the Act, pertains to provision for food, clothing, residence, and medical attendance and treatment. The only condition for claiming maintenance under this Act is that the persons must be unable to maintain themselves from their own foreign earnings and property. The Act mandates that the maximum maintenance paid will be 10,000 per month. The maintenance amount is determined by the needs of the claimant, and the aim is to provide maintenance for the person to lead a normal life. Parents or senior citizens can avail the services of the state government appointed maintenance officer to represent their interests during the proceedings before the maintenance tribunal. Lawyers are not allowed to represent cases before the tribunal according to the Act. Any person who is responsible for protection and care of senior citizen and intentionally abandons a senior citizen completely is liable to pay a fine of rupees 5,000 or be imprisoned for 3 months or both. Greeks enjoyed the privilege of being governed by democracy. Their government were made up of commoners, and they were allowed freedom of speech to a large extent through public speaking rights, standard of living, and they have all the rights to enjoy the fruits of this. Hence, Marshall stresses upon the social services. The Indian constitution attempted to provide full citizenship to all irrespective of whichever groups they belong to. The provisions about citizenship are found in Part 2, and in the subsequent laws passed by the Parliament. Citizenship can be acquired by birth, descent, registration, third, fourth, naturalization, and fifth, inclusion of territory. There is also a provision in the constitution that the state should not discriminate against citizens on the grounds of race, caste, sex, place of birth, etc. The rights of religious and linguistic minorities are also protected. Global citizenship and national citizenship. National citizenship assumes that our state can provide us with the protection and rights we need to live. However, states today are to tackle a lot of problems, and hence individual rights are guaranteed to protect the safety of the people. Global citizenship, on the other hand, deals with the importance of citizenship across the national boundaries. Hence, one may need the cooperative action by the people and the governments of many states. Therefore, citizenship for all can resolve many socio-economic inequalities. Moreover, global citizenship reminds us that we live in a world where the states are interconnected with each other. Natural rights are parts of human nature. Political theory explains about individual certain basic rights, and government cannot deny these rights. Moral rights includes good conduct, courtesy, and moral behavior. Moral rights includes rules of good conduct, courtesy, and of moral behavior, and stand for moral perfection of the people. Legal rights are equally available to all citizens, and they follow without any discrimination. Legal rights are of three types. Civil rights, these are to provide opportunity to each person to live a civilized social life. Right to life, liberty, and equality are civil rights. Political rights are by virtue that get a share in the political parties. These include right to vote, right to get elected, right to hold public office, etc. Economic rights, these are the rights which provide the economic security to the people. Legal rights are what the law says are known for. As the law is enforced, they gain importance to legislation or decree by legal authorized authority. Contractual rights. These rights originate from the practice of promise keeping. They apply to particular individuals to whom contractual promises have been made. Human rights are the rights of the highest order. They are protected and supported by international and national laws and treaties. International Human Rights Day is celebrated on December 10th in every year. The Bill of Rights in the United States was adopted as a single unit on December 15, 1791, and they constitute a collection of mutually reinforcing guarantees of individual rights and limitations on federal and state governments. James Madison proposed the Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights was influenced by George Mason's 1776 Virginia Declaration of Rights and a 1689 English Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights derives from the Magna Carta 1215. The English Bill of Rights 1689. James Madison. Fundamental rights form the Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. The Constitution Assembly took 2 years, 11 months, and 20 days to frame the Constitution. Right to equality guarantees equality before law for all people irrespective of caste, creed, gender, and race. Right to freedom is the speech of expression, freedom to assemble peacefully without arms, freedom to form associations and to move freely throughout India. Sec- no citizen can be denied of his personal liberty. There no person can be detained without informing the grounds of his arrest. An arrested person also has the liberty to consult and be defended by a large lawyer of his choice. Besides this, he is not to be kept under custody beyond 24 hours and must be produced before the magistrate. Preventive detention is considered as a check on the actions of the miscreants, which is actually the dire need of the hour. If the state feels that a person can be a threat to law and order as well as peace and security of the nation, it can arrest or detain that person. Constitution has provided the right against exploitation, wherein the traffic in human beings and beggary are forms of forced labor. It also prohibits the children below 14 years from employment in any factory, mine, or any kinds of hazardous labor. Right to freedom of religion. All the people have the right to choose their own religion and faith. Article 26 allows establishing and maintaining institutions related to religious affairs and charitable purposes also. And you can have own a movable or immovable property and administer the property in accordance with law. Cultural and education rights. These are certain non-political rights of religious, cultural, linguistic minority groups or sections of people. Constitution guarantees these rights for them. No citizen is denied the admission to the state or the state-aided education institutions owing to caste, creed, gender, etc. That is, citizens have the right to get educated in any schools or colleges of their choice. In case the institutions are found to practice discrimination, the government will not extend aid to such institution. Moreover, the state should not dictate the pattern of education to these institutions too, and must allow them to decide in order to preserve our culture. Right to privacy is moreover an integral part of human dignity. The right to privacy is protected as an intrinsic part of the right to life and personal liberty under Article 21 and as a part of the freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution as part of Part 3 of the Constitution. Rights of transgenders are different from men, how men and women are supposed to be. Today they are addressed as the third gender. The Supreme Court has in fact directed the union and the state governments to grant legal recognition of their gender identity. Political obligation binds a person to the performance of duties as mentioned in the Constitution. An individual has to follow the rules and regulations in the society for his own welfare and the society's welfare. When the state is responsible towards the citizen should also must reciprocate to the government. Political obligation and political authorities. Then the state as a political authority has the right to compel the non-compliers. For example, if anything lies within the state authority to levy the taxes, then the state has all the rights to compel the non-compliers to pay the taxes. However, even if the state does not enforce its authority, then still it's the moral duty of the citizens to comply with the laws. Property is considered as a natural right which is necessary for human dignity, freedom, and dignity of life. Property refers to the legal relations between the persons with respect to specific things which may be material or abstract. According to law, the government's main function is to guarantee every citizen and protection of their individual rights and secure conditions to enjoy their properties peacefully. Humans need property, which is also necessary means of life. Hence, the utilitarian state that the system of property rights is necessary if the individuals is to achieve a sense of happiness. If at all the governments want to promote the happiness of it, people productivity must be encouraged by protecting individuals' property rights. No government should take away the property from the people who are expected to possess and enjoy. With the advent of feminist perspectives, with the advent of women empowerment in the 20th century, women too claim equal structures. Feminist scholars state that an important condition for the subjugation of women has been owing to denial of access of women to resources to income such as land. Is owing to the prevailing patterns of male ownership and control of such resources. Owing to the status of women has been one of the dependence on women. This dependent status has actually led to their rights to own and claim property. The Indian Constitution does not recognize property a right as a fundamental right. In the year 1978, the 44th Amendment eliminated the right to acquire, hold, and dispose of property as a fundamental right. However, Article 300A was inserted in another part of the Constitution. This was to affirm that no person shall be deprived of his property save by authority of law. Hence, this has become a statutory right now. The drafting committee of the Constituent Assembly was under the chairmanship of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, which article provides constitutional remedies to the citizens at Supreme Court Article 32. Democracy rests upon the principles of majority rule along with individual and minority rights. Right of the people to demand the government they elected and the duty of the government to be accessible and responsible to the needs and demands of the people is the main function. One of the primary function of democracy is to protect basic human rights, equality before law, equal protection before law, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, right to organize and participate fully in the political, economic, and cultural society. Democracy is conduct regular, free, and fair elections to open to all citizens. Democracy ensures that all citizens receive equal protection under the law and that their rights are protected by the legal constitution system. Freedom in a democracy would it defined by philosophers. Democracy would it seems a delighted full form of government, anarchic and mostly assigning a kind of equality indiscriminately to equals and unequals alike. Socrates. Freedom in a democracy is the glory of the state, and therefore, in a democracy, only will the freedom of nature designed to dwell. Plato. The foundation of democratic constitution is liberty. People constantly make this statement implying that only in this constitution is there any share in liberty at all. Aristotle. Democracy are diverse political systems reflecting each nation's unique political, social, and cultural life. Democracy ensures that citizens to participate in the political system. Democracy is a system of government in which the power and responsibility are exercised by all citizens directly or through freely elected representatives. Political democracy is the features popular participation of citizens in government in which citizens elect their representatives to the legislature. The elected representatives form the government. As political system, democracy either functions at junction by direct involvement of the citizens, and the elected legislature would introduce it in the legislature making laws, and the elected legislatures would introduce it in the legislature. This is known as the process of popular initiative. Similarly, when the legislature selected by the people frame legislation, it is approved by a popular vote that is based on popular acceptance of the laws. This is known as popular referendum. The second type of democracy is the representative system of democracy, in which elected representatives of the people are elected for a term of office to determine public policy on behalf of the people. Political democracy by representative system of democracy is the dominant form of democracy all over the world, whereas the direct democracy is practiced in the Federal Republic of Switzerland. Social democracy is a combination of social, economic, and political ideas that support economic and social policies. It promotes social equality and social justice, giving strength to economy, and representative and participatory democracy. Social democracy is based on the principle of social equality in aspects of gender, status, beliefs, values, and customs. Social democracy believes strongly in equality of opportunity, equality, and freedom as the basis of human rights and life in a democracy. Industrial democracy is the means to promote democratic principles in industry and labor by provision and protecting of labor rights and responsibilities in the workplace. Democracy encourages the participation of labor in decision making along with the management. Industrial democracy enables the workers to participate actively in the process of building both the community and the individual interest for the collective good of the society. Democracy empowers workers as partners in the industry, calling for their joint efforts to build community interest and welfare. Economic democracy is defined as the process of creating democratic conditions of economic productivity, minimizing the rich poor gap, socio-economic differences, promoting economic development, and the ideal of creating greater equality among various classes. Totalitarian democracy is known as the populist democracy or mass democracy, in which citizens electing the representatives have no choice in decision making. Rad, rad, Radical democracy was proposed by M. N. Roy, a leading Indian political thinker who believed in real rule of the people for the term of office to which the legislatures are elected. Radical democracy supports the idea of direct accountability of the legislatures and executive to the people during the term of office. Radical democracy believed in the humanism of the people, who are real masters of political authority and power, and not the elected legislatures. Radical democracy brings into democracy the real sense of people's participation, accountability of the elected, and the power of the people to change the government. Democracy defined as the process of direct voting by the people of candidate or party or public issue or the adoption of new constitution of state. For constitution to determine the association of the province with the state is known as the national self-determination. The voters have the choice to accept or reject the choice. Athens was the first city to introduce classical democracy. Direct democracy in Athens emerged in between 800 to 500 BC. In Athenian direct democracy, all the citizens of the state are all members of the assembly who participate directly in the decision making and the process of legislation. Given the limited population, they were able to gather in the city square and were able to deliberate. All citizens were free to express their opinions.